Hello and welcome to another acysecurities market update. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be your host through today's trading journey. In the news overnight, we've seen more than 2 million infections across the globe. The number is now at 2 million and close to 70,000. We've also seen more than 130,000 deaths. Now, naturally, more infection means more deaths. However, the good news on that side is that we are seeing a reduced amount of deaths around New York and, of course, New Jersey. So this sort of indicates that perhaps it is starting to see on the downward slide like we were talking about the other day. In addition to this, the US has imposed a measure in New York where they will be having to have face masks at all times if you were traveling outside of the home. Now, the next part that I want to cover today is what happened last night on the news. We had core retail sales from the US retail sales, and the Bank of Canada do a monetary policy statement. We saw that the core retail sales dropped by 4.5%. We also saw that the full-scale retail sales, which includes automotive and a couple of other industries, dropped by 8.7%. We saw no change from the Bank of Canada. However, they did say something that was quite interesting to me in what their forecasts and expectations are on the banking model. Now, it says here, you should be able to see it on your screen, but I'm just going to read it out so that you can all hear it. The level of real activity was down 1.3% in the first quarter of 2020 and will be 15 to 30% lower in the second quarter than in the fourth quarter of 2019. So those are the expectations that the Bank of Canada are going to have moving forward. They are expecting obviously a significant drop in what they're seeing in GDP figures across the board. So let's keep an eye on that and see how they do really travel and transpire across the coming days and weeks ahead. The next thing I wanted to show you all and give you a bit of an idea about was how much spending of GDP is really going on. The chart behind me or on the screen for you now shows how much money in GDP terms has been spent by the G-20 nations. Now, at the moment, it is estimated that about 3.5% of all global GDP figures are being put towards battling COVID-19. And that is a significant number compared to what we saw during the financial crisis of 2010, the 2009 or the GFC, and of course the after effects of that as well. So we are seeing an immense amount of money being pushed into the economy to try and battle that. Now, the problem that I see from behind this, if we put so much money or so much of the world's GDP towards battling COVID-19, when the economic fallout finally does happen, will we have enough money there to be able to combat that as well? And that is really going to be the critical point in the coming months ahead. Now, moving on from that, a little bit more information. I spoke briefly about the US versus the WHO, and now China is into the table, also having a dig at America. Now, the issue that I'm seeing between these three parties is they are effectively having a little bit of a tiff, and they are almost politicizing the events, just like the WHO have said is not the time to do it. Now, whilst that all might be the case and there might be blame to be put on each side or either party, the real issue that I'm seeing is that there is no leadership coming. Neither of these on the global spectrum have been putting enough leadership towards what to do about the virus, how to handle it, and what to do about the economic fallout. Thus, so is actually impacting the rest of the world by putting in place an idea that there is no real true leadership. Same as what we saw at the end of World War II, where it was again a battle between a variety of nations who were trying to peak for that top contender, if you will. So that is something that is going to be a concern. It is obviously going to change the demographic of the globe as to who is the political powerhouse and who has the might of the world. Now, the next pin I'm going to look at is what the news is ahead. There are a couple of high impact events today. The first one being Australian unemployment and the changes towards that, and obviously the rate. This is going to be interesting to see, considering what we've seen here at some of the job start sort of places and where you can get government assistance. There have been lines out the door. So we have to assume that we're probably going to have some pretty negative numbers here and that it is likely to continue for some time, but it'll be a good idea to see where it might go in the future and what that estimation of how well the government stimulus has been so far. The next piece is US unemployment claims. Again, to remind you all, we had 3.28 million in the first week after NFP. We then had the next week being 6.6 and the week after that also being 6.6 million. So today it'll be interesting to see where that falls in its lie on the out curve. We also have GDP from China in the early hours of the morning, and at some stage today we are expecting, if you are trading stocks, that BlackRock Incorporated are going to be giving their earnings report. Now, that's going to be slightly important because it is a investment scheme that gets used, and obviously a banking sort of structure. So we need to keep an eye on what's happening around that, because it could be an indicator into what some other banks are going to be doing around the globe as well. That's all I have for you today at the moment, but if anything does change, I'll be sure to give you an update this afternoon. Have a great trading day ahead, and of course, if you want to like the video and subscribe to it, you'll be able to get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. And of course, if you ever want to get in contact with me about any of the content I cover in any of my videos or any of the other things that I cover, feel free to send me an email at talk2al@acy.com.